Good morning, Dr. Neason. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for being on this session of Digging Deeper with us. If you wouldn't mind, could you go ahead and just kind of like give like a background of who you are, where you came from, what you started out doing, and how you ended up as our Louisiana FFA Executive Secretary and Executive Director of Ag Ed?
All right, I was born and raised in Texas. I graduated from Texas A&M and became an ag teacher in 1974. I then went off to Iowa State after a few years and earned my PhD in ag education. We'll just say I did a few other things and eventually wound up in Louisiana working at LSU on soft money grants, and then applied for the state director position at the Department of Education.
Okay. So talking about the 90s and the Department of Ed and Louisiana FFA, most people don't really know the story of Louisiana FFA, as you know, as the first, like that individual who had to deal with all of it. Could you give us a rundown of kind of what happened in the 90s and what you did and all that?
In 1994 is when I joined the Louisiana Department of Education. There were two program managers for agricultural education at that time, myself and Gus Miller. Now, Gus was housed at Vedrine, close to where he lived, and I was housed at Baton Rouge. And at that time, we worked with the FFA, with the agricultural education programs. And then starting at about early 1999, we'll just say there became a competition, disagreement, whatever you want to call it, between the Department of Education and the Louisiana Technical College system as to which entity would control the use of the Carl Perkins grants. Those were the federal grants at the time. We'll just say Louisiana Technical College system got control of them. As a result, the Department of Education decided that they no longer needed the program managers for the vocational education units. We had a program manager for business education, home economics. Those were the main two I can think of at the time, at this moment. Oh, marketing education, DE. And in each position, you not only were in charge of the programs, but you were also in charge of the student organization that went with it. And so on July 1st of 1999, they basically declared that our positions no longer existed. And the student organizations were left to fend for themselves. Now, I had seen what was coming. I had been talking with the ag teachers for several months about what my concerns were. And yeah, I was concerned about my job, but mostly I was concerned about what was going to happen to the FFA. And we had already reached out to LSU and talked to them. And between the Ag Center and the LSU, at that time, vocational education program, they provided an office space in order for someone to continue to work. They also provide a half-time student worker and a half-time graduate assistant to assist that person. Now, at my employment, I was moved to school food services. So every day, of course, I had to work from 8 to 5 on school food services. But we continued keeping the FFA going by I would go out to LSU and leave notes for the student worker and the grad assistant, or make phone calls during the day to them of what needed to be done. And that continued until January, and some funding was secured in order to hire someone in that office. And I moved to that office in January, and then we got an executive secretary after that. And that was, well, at that time it was Ron Mayu.
Okay. So talking about ag education in the state, it has come a long way in our program history since it's ever started. what do you believe is the key piece of agriculture education that, or multiple key pieces in agriculture education that our youth today should be looking at and believing in it as well as like we have?
The FFA is an outstanding program. Now, all the student organizations had some parts of these key components, but FFA, number one, it provides students real life education. I have always said that our strength was getting the student involved with their supervised agricultural experience program, to where they owned something, they were responsible for something, they had to keep records on it. Another key component of the FFA program is the leadership development. We believe in developing the leader in each person by teaching skills, whether it be program procedure. Public speaking is a major piece. Involving the students in the organization at the local, state, and national levels as leaders. And so those to me are the three components: the agriculture component through the supervised ag experience program, the leadership development through public speaking, program procedure, etc. And I said three, but it's actually two.
Um, Bouncing off of that, we've also seen changes in, I guess you could say, what's the word? The norms of agriculture education and FFA. One being the major fact of the involvement of women in our organization. What have you like? What is your personal experience from being like the first woman ag teacher in the state of Texas to now seeing how FFA and agriculture education has evolved?
As a woman, yes. When I first began, according to the Department of Education in Texas, I was the first woman employed as a vocational agriculture teacher in Texas. There's just been a whole evolution because I got in right on the end of back when we were still all traditional ag. You raise some kind of plants, or you raise some kind of animals, and that was all it was considered to be ag. As a woman, there were challenges, we'll put it that way. Today, some states, I think you'll find more women ag teachers than you will men. Also, we have thankfully greatly broadened what is agriculture. And by its acceptance at the high school level and junior high level, then it's accepted more throughout the industry, whether it be a radio program, someone that does a radio program. It could even just be education in the community about what is agriculture. It can also be things like raising fish. And like I say, we've broadened that scope. Can you imagine if you had been required as a student to raise livestock or plants? It would have made an SAE to be almost impossible for you, and therefore it would have limited who could be in agriculture.
Right.
Thankfully, we've broadened that to where just about anyone can find something that they do for an SAE.
Right. And that I can attest to that because like in your 7th grade and 8th grade ag class, we know that Zachary was not one that lived on a farm, and it would have really been not a good thing if I wouldn't have been able to have an SAE that, as I was involved, that would have been able to develop into the program it is today from when I started in 6th grade. So yeah, definitely thankful that we've expanded the view on that. For students that are up and coming in the agriculture education and FFA, I guess you could say career zone like me, what inspiration or advice do you have for these students that are just starting out in the Blue Jacket to take with them because their time is limited in the FFA? And what advice do you have for our students today?
Don't turn down opportunities just because you're scared. I see students that miss out a great deal because oh, I can't do public speaking. I can't do this. Yes, you can. Jump in with both feet. It doesn't matter if you see the use of it. You might be surprised in the future of what you can do, whether it's attending a leadership workshop, getting involved with a CDE or an LDE, all of it. Take as many opportunities as you can find. Who knows? You might even travel someplace like Costa Rica or to a foreign country through the FFA. It's not just for the few, it's for each person. And only you can stop the, what can I call it, great ball of development by saying no. Try your best to always say yes, whatever the opportunity.
So you have seen where we've been. You have seen probably some of the darkest days in our association. You've also been able to witness over the years the success of our organization. Where do you see our organization in the future with the path we are on from the groundwork that you were able to lay for our future success in the 90s?
Well, I'm not sure how much I did as far as laying the path. I kept it rolling, but the FFA is a unique organization because we do combine career development, meaning you are learning skills that you possibly will lead you into a career. We are developing the person as far as giving students ways to learn, to expand, and to become more of the person that they can be. And we develop the leadership, which is something that there's not a lot of places that you can develop leadership skills. We put students in situations that they may not be comfortable with, but they grow. Whether it's going into a group of people that they don't know anybody, maybe they're not from the same background, but through those experiences, the student grows. And it's one of the greatest opportunities for a student to grow and to become more of the person that they are going to be.
Right.
Or could be.
No, I agree. And also bouncing off of that, with the future of Ag Ed, it's through our FFA members and just sustaining the agriculture education, like them becoming agriculture education teachers. What tips do you have for starting out ag teachers in their beginning early stages of their career to live a long, happy, successful career so they don't get burnt out so like at the beginning? What tips do you have for us agriculture education majors to continue the path of success our organization's on?
It becomes very easy as an ag teacher to absolutely and completely allow your job to totally and completely dominate your life. I think everybody's starting to learn that balance is a very, very important aspect of life. You need a little time maybe that you set aside that it's like, no, we don't do things in ag on this day of the week. Sunday is my particular choice. If you will think back, Zachary, when I was your teacher, we didn't do things on Sunday unless it was just absolutely no other way to get it done.
Right.
But you've got to have a balance between family, job, and even self. We often think taking time for self is a selfish thing. No, it isn't. If you don't keep a balance, you're going to burn out. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing, as a teacher, even if you have a strong FFA background, you don't know everything. So you as a teacher have to keep learning. You as a teacher, you have to keep developing yourself. So you take your opportunities And don't just go to the meeting, actually pay attention. There were times I felt like teachers' bodies were there, but their minds weren't. But like I say, a balance, keep on learning. When we quit learning, we are dying. I may be retired now, but I'm learning new things. Develop a strong support system among your fellow ag teachers, your family, your friends. Sometimes you just need to vent. You need somebody that you can go to. You don't have to worry about where it goes. You can let off steam. And surprisingly, you feel better, especially if you don't have to worry about it coming back and biting you. So develop a support system and keep a balance and keep learning.
Right. I appreciate that. Dr. Neason, it is always a pleasure to sit down and listen to your pieces of wisdom from the wise old owl. It's always a pleasure for me to catch up with you, from you being my ag teacher. But Louisiana FFA is forever grateful for what you did in the 90s, and forever grateful for the mentorship that you provided a few of our members, quite a few of our members in during your career. We'd like to thank you for hopping on this session of Digging Deeper.